Hi, good people. Emmanuel Safari here. I'm just starting with this story of Whole Foods and how they overcame the floods in 1981 at their store. Just pick some context here so that we see how we can relate it with what is happening in our country, Uganda, to better handle risks and how do we respond to them as a people. Thank you. Just listen in.
First Whole Foods Market store just took off and was a success from the very first day.
Nobody really expected it. I always put us out as we were a bunch of hippies that nobody expected would amount to much. And it really did flourish.
Ten persons are known dead and 8 others are missing after torrential rainstorms flooded Austin, Texas. Dick Ellis of KTBC Austin reports.
A cloudburst dumped about 6 inches of rain in a few hours in the hills around Austin, and Shoal Creek went on a rampage. Waters rose over 20 feet in a matter of minutes, trapping people in their homes and in their cars.
They call it the 100-year flood, which means that the probability of something to that magnitude wouldn't happen more than maybe once a century.
Record crews were busy throughout the night, as was EMS and APD. Reported over 100 calls for assistance in the early morning hours. Businesses along North Lamar were among the hardest hit.
But we didn't know the magnitude until we came to work for our early morning shift the next day, when we came to seeing the store completely decimated.
We had 8 feet of water in the store, so we were really almost bankrupt before we really got going. I mean, the store had only been open about 8 or 9 months. Fortunately for us, we had a very dedicated team member base, and all of our stakeholders came and saved us. Our suppliers fronted us new inventory, our investors put in new capital, the bank loaned us more money, the team members worked for free until we got back open again. Customers came in and helped us clean up the store. In fact, there were many customers came in, pitched up alongside of us and helped us dig out of the muck.
The next time we all got together, John said, well, hey, good news, we're staying open. And I can't even describe the feeling. It was really, that's crazy. I'm talking about now, thinking about it.
It did awaken in my consciousness. The first inkling I had about stakeholders was quite aware that there were these different parts of the business that cared about us, that all of them did. And in a sense, that helped me realize that I cared about them and that we cared about them and that we had responsibilities to try to do the right thing by them.
I remember our opening day when we reopened again, and Craig Weller and I had been there all night, because we were, just couldn't go home. There were so many things to do, and other people were there too. And I remember him saying, okay, open the door, here we go, guys. And oh, wow, and we started again.
Really, all the stakeholders came in and said, we don't want Whole Foods to die. We love Whole Foods. And they didn't let us die.
What happened? This was 1981. This is the story I wanted us to appreciate. That 1981, this is when the major flood came in. And these guys, of course, had just opened up 1 year into the store, and then things happened. So there's lots of story on YouTube, so please look it out. It's a very interesting story, but it's a story that happens on a daily basis in our country. We are hit by natural calamities. Actually, this whole story of John Mackey as the CEO of Whole Foods, which is now a big, massive thing that Amazon has taken up, was titled in a book, one of the books he wrote, that we are not retailers with a mission, but we are missionaries who wholesale. Why? Because he handled these people very well. Later on, he embraced insurance, and this is a story of another day. So back home, let us introduce, first of all, there's a presentation that was made by the National Building Review Board, that is NBRB. That was on 16th of June. And I felt that we needed to respond to what the report came out to speak about building standards in our country. So whether it's buildings, we're a country that is building very highly, very fast, but also there are lots of accidents that are putting up the very building that we're putting up. So this is a report that was done in conjunction with the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers. And let's look at what the report came up with, the findings, and then possibly we can have a solution as insurers. NBRB is a government agency established by the Building Control Act of 2013. Its vision is a well-planned, decent and safe built environment. Mission is to promote and ensure planned, decent and safe building structures that are developed in harmony with the environment. So the mandate is first of all to monitor building developments, and well, of course they looked at the key output there was compliance to the NBS and BCR. These are technical terms, but key to note is these were things that were implemented or compiled in 2020, the year of the COVID. And second is to ensure that the design and the construction of public buildings have access to people with disabilities. Then they have to oversee, inspect and monitor the operations of the building contractors. Number 4 is to hear and determine appeals. 5 was to determine the fees to be charged by the building contractors for the approval plans and the issue of building permits and occupational permits. Then, of course, to undertake investigations. All this was to make sure that we are really structured society now. You can't just build anyhow without being monitored. And even the engineers you have on ground have to be well supervised and monitored, and also complying to the standards of the day-to-day activities that we are going of a planned city, a planned country. That's the structure. Not so important. Investigation department, of course, its mandate is to investigate building accidents. What are those? The collapses, fires. Then also to investigate complaints and appeals, the breaches to regulatory framework. Then also the knowledge generation, together with the industry, academia and professionals, and of course insurers. Okay, so what are the investigations? What did they find on ground? So this is an example of some of the incidents they got. Category of investigations. We had 50 fires, 50 cases of fires. 32% were schools, 52 were commercial, and then 16 residential. Then we also, of course, had one case of explosion in clubs, and then also collapses. These were just 29 in the period of study. Commercial, 76%. These were buildings in the commercial hub. Then schools, 10%. Residential, 14%. STC, that is okay. The steel and that is a steel. Okay, we shall see what they are talking about, that how people are using steel. That is something that has not been seen. Okay, there are many that were halted. Then other accidents, 2 cases. Then complaints, there are 13 cases. Okay, investigation carried out, we have seen 53% were fire and explosion. Then the other bulk were collapses. Collapses just such as these, as we can see, if we just try to build in. This is something that happened at Chiseni, and it affected a number of people. Many of them died, and we saw. We shall go back to it slowly by slowly. This is a collapsed building site, but you can just zoom in and see the effects, and lots of people are swallowed up. Actually, even these people on this layer were risking. So the collapse issues are quite enormous. So let us just look into the last bit. The other biggest percentage were complaints. Complaints. It's also a big thing that brings in so many stakeholders like our local leaders. But as you can see also in the background, these are examples of some of the building accidents that we would want to respond to as insurers. So let's just conclude with what the report said so that we can get into the solution that insurers. So the investigation collaborates with experts from UPF, that's Uganda Police Force, then BGAL, that's one of their professional bodies, Ministry of Gender, and also the Uganda Institute of Professional Engineers. So if these accidents actually have deaths, as you can see, for fire incidents, 35 died in the period of study, 30 got injured, that's 65 under fire incidents. Then building collapses, 46 deaths, 43 injuries, and 89. So it actually collapses caused the big bulk. Then of course others had a very small percentage, as you can see. Okay, then the root cause analysis of the fire incidents, root causes, majority 56% were arson. Yeah, most of these reports, whether the school fires, whether building the sites, or most of these are due to man. A man arson, that is someone deliberately, because they are maybe frustrated, they are disgruntled, they burn the building or they burn the whatever property. Then the other bulk was method, maintenance works such as welding, those are also causing. So those are some of the major risks that are pointed out. Then the bigger percentage at 12% were machine related, electrical appliances, cooking stoves and machines can also get short circuits and things like that. We also had another percentage was inclusive, and then ongoing investigations are 6%, dilapidation and disrepair are 2%, management that were like floods and things like that you have no control over, they're just 2%. So fire incidents, there is a whole bulk of things in here. We can discuss it. Then let's look at what are the root cause analysis of the building accidents. Poor materials. Notable causes of the building collapse are usually poor materials, poor construction methods and supervision, then the poor inadequate designs, and then age and disrepair and dilapidation. Causes of building collapses, yes, majority were poor construction methods and supervision at 26%. Also poor designs was also at 26%. Then poor materials at 18%. So this is quite an ongoing process. Key issues leading to that, there's a lot of guesswork. These are all details, we shall not go into them, but quite a bit. The other area that they pointed out was of course the steel and timber composite method. This was being banned because they realized it was not going to be structurally compliant or sustainable in case of any natural calamities, things like earthquakes and things like that. The building won't be so stable. So this committee or this report actually said timber used was not graded, and then the quality parameters are unknown. There are no design standards or guidelines to support the technology. Safety aspects such as fire risk and earthquake resistance are not yet known. Inadequate skilled workforce in the steel structures, especially connections. Then for the sites inspected, none of the drawings were endorsed by professionals. No single engineer could append his signature on such drawing. Then lack of clarity on whether the composite action was possible as marketed. So all this was very unclear. So to you, there members who have been using some of these things, everything has been banned. This was as of 23rd September 2022. They issued out a legal notice supplement to talk about the prohibition of the steel, timber, concrete, composite building method. Yeah, so that has to be very key. I think as more information to you people out there, This is something that you can take away from today's discussion. Interventions. This is now more technical. There is a system that has been set up by NBRB for all the engineers. It has been digitized. It has been launched by the Minister of Works and Transport Minister, that is General Edward Katumba, in December 2022. System guarantees improved supervision, monitoring, and enforcement. And of late, I've seen there are going to be awards for those contractors, those people who are owning buildings that adhere to all these standards. This is something that I've seen in the news, and I think is going to be implemented very soon. I would like to present some of the solutions, and this is an example of okay, this was at a tender level. Yeah, the product is called the Contractors All Risks, and oftentimes we usually get contracted or to quote. So whichever insurer you choose, they have to provide for you a quotation that meets that standard. So we're going to use an example of a bid worth, say, 1 billion. Okay, this was actually 5 billion. It's the example I used, and they had a limit, a public liability limit of or what you call third-party liability limit of 10%. That was 500 million. Usually it's 10%. So let's just correct that so that we see how the figures move. So this is a contract of 18 months. All these other things, the contractors and the address, of course, those will be mentioned, but that when I put TBA, that is to be declared. So let's just look through quickly how much will it cost, because oftentimes we hear that insurance is very expensive. Now, if we have a contract worth, say, 5 billion, it could be a road construction, it could be a building construction, it could be a dam, name it. This is just an illustration for you to appreciate that how much do you put in vis-a-vis how much it will cost. So I've used the Excel version this time round just to show you, for instance, workers' compensation or group personal accident for the various staff. They had about 8 staff who on various salaries, but as you can see, each person has their own salaries in here, and then the salaries, you multiply them times 12 months, then 5 years, because that is the law. We're supposed to pay up to 5 years earnings should anyone get a problem at the site or even out of the site, but as long as they're still employed at the contract on the job at the site. So you can see for these site engineer, the professionals, their rate is usually lower at 0.45%. It can even go lower if we see that they are more and they are more professional, they have more things that protect them. Then the workers' compensation for the masons, there are about 20 masons and then 30 helpers. These are usually people who are paid, they are not professionals, but they can come and help at the site. They are quite a number, they usually paid wages. So those wages we put them in, we categorize them in monthly bills, so that we can see that for the 20 masons in a month, they were paid 6.7 million. Yeah, whereas the helpers were paid 4.5 million for the whole month. That is what they pay. But as long as they are within your people, and we see that they are on your pay slips, or that book that they sign for their wages, and they get any problems, we shall be able to compensate them. That's the only way we can identify that they were part of the construction project. Then public liability, usually we agreed limit of, say, usually about 10% or 20% of the contract value. So this is an example. If the value was, say, 500 million, out of the, when the contract price was 5 billion, it will come to about 1.5 million. So contractors, plant and machinery. Now, for this particular client, they gave us a breakdown of all their machinery they had on ground. Things like the water bowsers, things like the cranes that they have. There are so many other machines they use on this road construction project. They had equipment, both hired and also the ones they own, about 1.1 billion. So we also have to ensure that CPM, what is contractors, plant and machinery. So because it can also get damaged at the work site, as you saw this example where some of these collapsed. Some of these debris can collapse on the machines, and they actually also get damaged. Much as here, you can still see them. Here they have just come to collect the debris that had collapsed. But it's also very possible that they can also get damaged at the work site. Should such a building cave in and destroy them. So it's also important that you insure them. Now, as you can see this example, this is actually the total liability. I should just get the total here. You can see that the total project of this, because you're covering all this, it's about 8 billion. For it, the premium for it is about just 29 million. The tax element, it will come to about 34 million. Yeah. The additional stamp, what you call stamp duty, because there are 4 major classes. There is the Contractors All Risks itself, then there is the workers' compensation or group personal accident, public liability, and then contractors. So each of them attracts a stamp duty of 35,000. That's why I've left in this, such that the total would come to about 34 million. The scope of cover, that's a detail, it's not so important, but for it gives you an assurance that at least you are really covered. Maybe the other thing that I need to explain here is the excess or minimum excess. The insured will bear the first 10% of the claim amount, or 2.5 million. That is very important to note, because should any claim happen, the client has to be sure, has to be notified. They must be aware that they will contribute at least 2.5 million or the first 10% of every claim. So the rest are basically details which we shall not go into, but just to emphasize that really we need to plan very well how we can manage some of these risks, building accidents, so that we don't have this kind of incidents. Let us be proactive and not just reactive whenever such incidents happen. Now let's also look at this very example we looked at. But we know that oftentimes, such a client who was maybe at a bidding level may not be able to pay all the premium at once. So what is the solution that we have? We have what we call IPF, Insurance Premium Financing Facility, by the various banks that we have, such that out of the 35 million, if you can pay the interest rate at 6.5, you'll be paying a premium of about 3.7 million on a monthly basis. So you give us 10 post-dated checks of 3.7 million, meaning that you're paying 252,000. That will include about 30,000 for stamp duty and 40,000 for what we call credit reference bureau fee. So that is the total that you pay over 10 months. The checks you write, such that now you get the policy issued, and for you to win the whatever bid you are supposed to achieve, and then for you to be able to compete reasonably. This helps, of course, with the cash flows, So with that, I would want to thank you for your time. I remain Emmanuel Sanji Safali, bring you the Promise Insurance Show. This episode has been brought to you in collaboration with National Building Review Board, and they gave us a very good report that has a basis of the solution we provided. We pray that going forward we can reduce some of these fire incidents, the building collapses, and we can see more testimonies. For the insurers out there who are going to be featured, we pray that they can have some of these testimonials so that the bulk of the contractors that you have on board can actually get confidence that insurers will be able to meet their needs and compensate them. Is it the project itself getting issues? Is it the workers on ground? Is it your neighbors whose property is going to be damaged whenever incidents happen? You know, they can actually also sue you if you didn't have a policy in plan. That is why it's always advisable to have a public liability extension of about 10% of the contract value. Yeah, it can be more, but there are not so many incidents. You can always settle out of court. But if you have made provision for it, then the insurers will come in. So I want to thank you so much, NBRB, that is the National Building Review Board, for giving us this insightful knowledge and for giving the awards. I've seen some initiatives by you guys to really reward, and we shall be looking forward. I hope we can actually feature that one of these days on the show. I remain Emmanuel Sanji Safari, bring you the Promise Insurance Show. Till next time, God bless.